you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wasting neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning and welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And I'm the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at Peoples_Pundit. Where to start? So I think really, here we go, which is what happens every time. And I'm see-through. You guys like how I'm translucent today? Today will be the last day for this, hopefully. And we will move to, is that a little better? We'll move to Wirecast because I've frankly had it. But anyway, this happens every election. Now we see the pivot to, oh no, we really did do this correctly. We really didn't lie. We really weren't putting out bogus polls and punditry. All right. And this happens every time. The arrogance is unbelievable. It's incredible. And I know you guys want to get into other stuff, and we will. But here comes the glowing review about the Slimers website. Did you know the website 538 is named after how many electors there are in a U.S. election? That's not what it should read. It should read, the website 538 is named after the number of electors in the Electoral College, and it's a fake model that's called one election correctly in 5 cycles. That's what it should read. It's a total fraud, a total joke, and they need him. They need him, folks, because he started arguing that the polls weren't really wrong. Again, incredibly. By the way, before we get into that, happy Veterans Day to everybody. Okay? You know what? He's not worth the opening. The veterans are worth the opening, right?
Amen to that. Happy
Veterans Day to everybody. I am going to, of course, be working today. But I am going to take maybe an hour with the daughter. All right. Because she's mad at me for working all day yesterday and into the night. She fell asleep waiting up for me. But that's basically it. Yeah. So anyway, you should take a minute today and thank veterans around you, because, you know, this country is really protected by an all voluntary military. And we've forgotten, quite frankly, about words like service and duty in too many areas of this country. And if you've ever served in the military, then you know it's pretty much a regional thing. Okay. It's pretty much a regional thing. So if you're, you know, married to one, whatever it may be, say a quick thank you. And I just wanted to get that out there before we start. All right, so there we have it. You know what? It's just going to be what it is going to be today. I'm going to shimmer like Edward from what's it called?
Twilight?
What's that stupid movie you guys all like? Twilight. There we go. I'm just going to shimmer like Edward.
Ooh, it's sparkling.
All right. Yeah, that's it. All right. So, okay. So here we go. Let's take some of these. And I have to give a little bit of credit to the guys at Real Clear Politics, because they're not biting this time. And in fact, in order to save the way they looked going into this election, they had to attack Real Clear Politics. And it started, there could have been one before it, but the first one that I did see was Nate Cohen attacking Real Clear Politics for misleading people in Pennsylvania. The average misleads people in Pennsylvania because it's really just a few polls that were throwing it off. Who was more accurate in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna or Nate Cohen at the New York Times? Susquehanna was a Trump +1. So were we, as a matter of fact. And Nate Cohen was Biden plus, 6 was their last one? 6 or 7? Quinnipiac, Monmouth, the usual suspects. +6, +7. That was never a never. We've polled Pennsylvania since August, right? In one capacity or the other. And it was never +6, +7, anybody. Pennsylvania always was Donald Trump's strongest Midwestern state. That's what we found, at least in the polling. And it is true that in some cases, the polling is difficult. So in Wisconsin, for instance, which the president just slammed ABC News for, rightfully so, Wisconsin is a difficult state to poll. Okay. And we have these slew of voters that are just incredibly undecided, and they don't decide until the end. So it does give, at least at the presidential level, and even in some gubernatorial races, it gives this false impression that the Democrat has a lead, when in fact, all the Democratic candidate really has are more decided voters quickly. And then for a Republican to take that lead, they really need to take the remaining undecideds. All right. But they are and do lean to the right. They are swings, but they do and are leaning to the right. If you guys have been watching the show for a while, then you know that's like 9 to 11% of the population in Wisconsin, roughly 9 to 12. In this case, it looked like it wasn't as big if you followed the fake media polling, but that was never true. It was Wisconsin. Wisconsin was Wisconsin. Wisconsin was Wisconsin. This was never reality. This was never true. And they're racing to cover their tracks now because they want to be relevant the next time, because they have no intention of stopping the freaking grift, man. It's a grift. And they have absolutely no intention of stopping the grift. So they need to save Nate, who should resign immediately. I mean, he's a fraud and bad at his, and not even good at his job. Even if he wasn't a fraud, which he is, he's bad at his job. They should replace him if they cared about about accuracy and the truth. They would replace him if they wanted to salvage that garbage website. But that's not what it's about. It's about a narrative, just like ABC, Washington Post, Biden +17 in Wisconsin. That's about a narrative, folk. That is not about telling you the truth or reporting on the real status of the race, the real state of the race. This was always a tight election. The fundamentals always favored the incumbent. And they needed always a quasi-election to have a shot at taking this from him. That was always the case. It never changed. In normal election circumstances, this would have been a route beyond what they are alleging happened. Why? Because you don't have that much time to do that. To do what it is they're alleging was done. And we are investigating, of course. They just don't have the time, man. They do not have weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. People come out or they don't. In a state like Pennsylvania, early voting never even took hold. This was the first year in which early voting really became a thing. Pennsylvania voters, they never really took hold of it, even though it was a blue state for a really long time. They never liked it. They would rather traditionally vote on election day. They had no chance without this quasi mail-in system. I had said that several times. Now that the election is over, I think that's absolutely clear. They had no chance. None. Without the U.S. Postal Service. By the way, what do I mean by racing to cover the tracks? Again, it's still on the Twitter sidebar, trending that this guy retracted his statement. He did not retract his statement. And even supposed right-wing websites are doing that, are putting that up. He just posted a video right before these headlines went public that he did not retract. And in fact, the Washington Post now has corrected their story, yet Twitter keeps it up.
Well, Fox News said the same thing.
Faux news. That was, if you, and look, I said it too, because they were like, you know what? We got audio tapes. And this guy was bullied by federal investigators. And I'm like, oh my God. If this is true, and James O'Keefe has audio of federal investigators from the Inspector General's office, because every government agency, guys, has an Inspector General's office. And if they dump audio of the Inspector General bullying and textbook whistleblower tactics, this is going to be horrible for our democracy. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. I would like to see the whole tape because, and he said he's going to release it, but this is just part of them covering their tracks. They don't want you to know that it appears that the U.S. Postal Service played the role of the personal ballot harvesting organization for the Democratic Party. They don't want you to know that. Now, of course, it is absolutely legit for the Postal Service to carry back and forth mail-in ballots. But that's not what some of these whistleblowers are alleging. And this one that went public in Erie, Pennsylvania. He's alleging they backdated a lot. That's not good. And then for them to come out, investigators to come out, that is the OIG, the Office of the Inspector General in every government agency is really, guys, I mean, if that doesn't work, then none of it works.
Amen.
They're not supposed to be in on the collective bargaining scheme. And they put this guy, by the way, on administrative leave with no pay. With no pay. So this is textbook whistleblower intimidation. And in fact, I have it right here. Somebody sent it to me. Subject, emergency placement in an off-duty status. This is written notification that you were placed in an off-duty non-pay. You know how many people, think about under the Trump administration, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Baker, before they pushed out, they all got paid. Even the people who were busted with their hand in the cookie jar, they all got paid. Going back to the Obama administration, Lois Lerner got paid. All right. There's so many you can't, you would need like an hour to put together the definitive list. Off-duty non-status pay effective November 10, 2020. You were placed in this off-duty non-pay status as per Article 16.7 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement. Okay, guys. This is what they are saying is that this guy, as an employee may be immediately placed on an off-duty status without pay by the employer, but remain on the rolls where the allegation involves intoxication, which is use of drugs or alcohol, pilferage, or failure to observe safety rules and regulations, or in cases where retaining the employee on duty may result in damage to the U.S. Postal Service property, loss of mail or funds, or where the employee may be injurious to self or others. They have that in bold, where the employee may be injurious to self or others. And from what I understand, they're bringing up old things that were already litigated. And then, of course, this has to do with him going to James O'Keefe and blowing the whistle on what they did here. Your actions may have placed employees and yourself, as well as the reputation of the U.S. Postal Service, in harm's way. No, who put the reputation of the U.S. Postal Service in? Who did that? Who threatened the reputation of the U.S. Postal Service? Illegally backdating ballots put the reputation of the U.S. Postal Service in harm's way. Mm-hmm. And yet Twitter keeps this up, by the way. I actually can't wait to see that because in edited tape, James O'Keefe has a lot of, haters that say, well, he edited this, because this is why I really wanted to name the show this way today, because James O'Keefe, independent pollsters, you can't make one mistake. Mm-mm. You can't make one mistake, or they'll use it to bury your work in your professional career for the rest of the time, for your rest of your professional career. Mm-hmm. And then all the work you do will put yourself in doubt moving forward. But they can have somebody as big of a failure as Nate Cohen at the New York Times. Even bigger failures. For instance, like Quinnipiac. They can do that and miss election after election after election after election, and there is no accountability for them. What does Nate the Slimer get? A glowing article about his fake model on his garbage website. Folks, you don't bleed millions and millions of dollars every year in a business and still continue to get funding unless somebody finds what you do valuable. In this instance, his value is narrative. That is his value. And somebody is willing to eat millions of losses every year just to be able to push fake narratives, just to be able to suppress the other side's vote, to depress and demoralize their political enemies, and depress fundraising efforts. All of this does really have an impact. It really does. And frankly, it's incredible how many people went out and went to vote for this man anyway. He'll get the most votes of any sitting president. We're all just supposed to believe Joe Biden got more. All right. Do me a favor. It's kind of an emergency. Seth has a problem with his kids and wanted to reschedule anytime later in the day. So we'll just move that on. All right.
Gotcha.
And that happens. Look, kids come first. Kids come first. Family comes first. Kids come first. And soon, Russell, you will hear her gleeful cackles in the background with proper equipment, because this is it's just crazy. I mean, it's just nuts. That's a great question. I'm not a lawyer, Sojourner, and I did want to answer a lot of questions today, but he said, as a poli-sci guy, and how did you know I had a poli-sci degree? Huh? How did you know that? I have a couple, actually. How did you know? I mean, I got out of the Army and really had nothing that I wanted to do, so I just went to school. So I didn't mean that in I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I would ask Barnes that. I think that there's a legit argument about subject to the jurisdiction of. I do, because the case that they're constantly citing every time there's an argument like this, and I mean, they, like big media, nobody really believes that they were, just addressing everyone that was born here at the time, whether you're the children of diplomats, or it really did matter at one point. It did matter whether or not you were subject to the jurisdiction of, meaning loyal. If you're a diplomat, if you're the ambassador from Spain, you're here and your children may be born here, but you're still not subject to the jurisdiction of. You're a citizen of Spain, right? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that for the legal minds to argue. But personally, I think it's pretty clear. And even when they were writing that, the wording for that, if you guys go back and read primary source documents, I mean, I think it's pretty clear what they meant. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying that Supreme Court case that they cite is just not, it's just not true. They were not ruling on, they were not, giving a blanket to everybody. It's just not the case. We take it as that because some of this is just uncomfortable conversation. So we don't want to wade into it, but that was a good question. I mean, if Robert was on, he would really be the better person to ask that. I'm not a lawyer, but I do have my own views on it, of course. But getting back to what they're doing here, then they're going to go around and they're going to find. It is also, and really where I was trying to segue was that it's important to get things right because you are not afforded the luxury, or those of us on the other side of this business, meaning we do not have silver spoons in our mouths. We do not have the protection of corporate media. You have to make sure you get it right. Mm-hmm. It's important for you to get it right. Number one, for your own reputation. Like that you see that James O'Keefe does, no matter what he does, they always just immediately try to dismiss him as that guy who, right? No matter what. If you're a pollster like Trafalgar and you get one race wrong, they'll point to that single race instead of the fact that let's be real. Who has the better record? Robert Cahaly at Trafalgar or Nate Cohen at the New York Times? It's not even close. Nate Cohen hasn't called Florida correctly in, I don't even know.
Years.
A lot of them, the only reason why you can't say it's consecutive failures over the course of time is because several of them did get 2012 correctly. But an idiot could have gotten 2012 correctly. And I'm not sure Nate was even polling with Sienna back then, but an idiot could have gotten 2012 correctly. Mitt Romney was going to lose to Barack Obama. I mean, that is just, I don't know who would have thought otherwise, other than like Karl Rove and the Republican establishment. He was never going to beat Barack Obama. The same thing with Nate the Slimer. I mean, he's a poll reader. So if the polls are wrong every election cycle, he's going to be wrong because he doesn't have a model. It's a poll reading operation. He basically is like a more sophisticated, unskew the poll reading model. That's it. There's nothing else that goes into that model. If there was, then the polls would not have such heavy weights to them as individual variables in the model. And so when a poll came out like Quinnipiac, Biden +7 in Pennsylvania, it would not move the model that much. It's one public poll with a horrible track record. And in fact, when we stopped doing the PPD election projection model, Quinnipiac was removed from our, they are that bad. They just had, because most of the time in our modeling, we didn't care really about what the top line of the poll said. We cared about what the demographics inside the poll showed. And they were doing things that were just not legit. Like a student kid is not a white working class guy or girl. That's a student. There's a big difference. So they were giving data that was just not really even parsable to be able to put into the model, because the top line didn't really matter to us as nearly as much. Actually, it didn't matter at all. What mattered was what was inside the poll, what was inside the numbers. That's what mattered. All right. Anyway, you got to get it right for one, your own personal reputation, because they'll slam you. And then two, because in the end, you're just going to hurt your own cause. Exhibit A. I have Exhibit A and I have Exhibit B. Exhibit A. This list I didn't see. It's all over Twitter, this fact check list. No, 14,000 dead people didn't vote in Wayne County. We are still waiting on a couple responses about names, lots of names that we found. But we did not find 14,000 dead people in Wayne County. Somebody got that list, put that up there, and now they'll use that to dismiss all other claims. You hurt the cause. Now, maybe they were acting in good faith. I'm sure they were. But as people who are taking time to investigate this stuff the right way, you hurt whatever potential findings others may have. That's number one. Exhibit B. The tweet about the change of address flag, somebody took and ran and said that disqualifies 132,000 ballots in Fulton County. That is not what a change of address flag means. And I had to spend a half an hour on the phone with Snopes yesterday. That did not help anybody. A change of address flag simply means that those people have a chance. They really are not eligible to vote, but that does not mean they necessarily voted. That's what an investigation is for. But now, because you did that, it makes it much easier for everybody else to just dismiss it. It's important to get it right. It's kind of like the Trump rule. Trump brought up this idea of how this election would go awry. And in the beginning, if you guys remember, I was like mad at Donald Trump. I'm like, stop saying things like this because it's not true. It's not really accurate. The point, the gist, right? What was it? Like the general gist of what he was trying to say about the potential for mail-in fraud. It was absolutely true, but he was not using the correctest terminology, and he was not distinguishing solicited from unsolicited, from typical absentee ballot voting, for instance, in Florida, to what Democrats were actually asking for. Eventually, he got on the correct page, but in the beginning, it hurt people like me who were trying to say, listen, this is going to lead to fraud. This is going to lead to distrust. This is going to lead to legal challenges. This is going to lead to a quagmire. And whoever wins, half the damn country is not going to view the other side, the person who wins, as legitimate. It's important to just take time to get things right, folks. It really is. But not the media. They can do whatever the hell they want. Nate Cohen could put out as many Biden plus 6s in Florida, as many Biden plus 3s as he wants. He will never be held accountable if we don't hold him accountable. Because we're already starting to see the cover-up stories. They need to write that glowing piece about 538. Why? Because he already signaled. He's going to write how Rasmussen was a horrible poll again, how Trafalgar was still wrong, how Susquehanna was still wrong, how others were still wrong, and how the polls really weren't that bad. And right now it's teeing up. There's a 538 versus RCP fight coming. Because in order to keep the grift going, they needed to attack RCP. And now, in case you guys didn't see, Sean Trendy and Tom Bevan just aren't having it. Not this time. So yesterday, when they started to put out nonsense about how good the polling really wasn't wrong, they weren't having it. And he tweeted, he said, look, I like a good contrarian argument as much as the next guy, but there's really no getting around the fact that the 2020 polling was a pile of steaming garbage. And then I see somebody in here. As a matter of fact, somebody in here wrote that we got it dead on. I love you guys. I want somebody was like, well, that's because of who you're looking at. And somebody just wrote flatly, People's Pundit got it right. There is a better resolution. The margin, you guys want to know. Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you guys this because Sean, I didn't even see he put a higher resolution chart up. For the idea, like, because you know what Nate's going to do. Nate's going to pretend as if, look at this. Nate's going to pretend as if there was no Democratic bias. There was no garbage. You can clearly see the top above the line is Democratic margin was underestimated. And then the bottom below the line was Republican margin underestimated. The x-axis, all right? The x-axis, which is the horizontal left to right axis. The y-axis, for those who just don't know, is the vertical axis up and down. Okay. That's the observed margin in polling. Democrat up, Republicans down. Okay. And then the left to right x-axis is states. You have it cut off here because you have the Senate polls over here, more presidential polls over here. If the bubble is red and below the plot band on the y-axis, okay, then it means that those polls underestimated Republicans. If it is above the plot band, they overestimated Republicans. Look at how many polls underestimated the Republican share of the vote and how many polls overestimated the Democratic share of the vote. Folks, look at this crap. And by the way, this is obviously, they're average,
Mm-hmm.
So look at this garbage. This is not legit, Laura. This is not legit because we don't embrace outliers as a statistical rule of thumb. Like outliers are supposed that you would not only are they to be expected and not smeared. Again, not only are they not to be smeared, I mean, they're to be expected. Outliers are supposed to be there. Otherwise, it's just herd, it's just groupthink, it's just what Sean said it is, steaming piles of garbage.
Echo chambers.
It's an echo chamber. They're not this bad at their jobs, folks. They are not this bad at their job. This was intentional. Either that or it was maybe unconsciously. I think a little bit of it all. The truth is, he can take that article in his New York Times and stick it up his butt. He's the one who's not good at his job. He's the one who doesn't know what he's doing. I even tried, like you guys know, to engage him and tell him why he was going to be wrong in Florida.
People keep asking about this Dr. Shiva.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Dr. Shiva.
Guys,
Analysis of Wisconsin.
I don't know. I will only bring verifiable stuff to the show. I'm not going to comment on every single person who has a theory. We're doing our own work. It takes time, and that's all we can really do and tell you. It takes time. I know everybody wants a resolution right away, but you jump to conclusions, you'll end up like Jim Hoff on the Gateway Pundit, putting up some quote of mine he didn't understand, and all that did was make his readers feel good and make any findings, legitimate findings, right, that people may find look silly.
And let's not mention they were looking for.
Of course they were looking for things like that. And they're dying to get me to say something that is not legit, folks. You understand? They're dying to. So I really can't comment on every single person's take on this, that, and the other thing. I didn't see it. I don't even know who she is. Doesn't even ring a bell to me.
It's a she.
It doesn't ring. I thought you said it was a woman.
Dr. Shiva.
I would have to read it. If somebody has an article or something that's, not from some crazy website. If somebody has some article or they wrote an analysis on Substack or Medium, I'll be happy to read it and then weigh in on it. But I'm not. I just,
It's a he.
It's a he. Okay.
I said
Again.
he.
Again.
I got you.
We were talking about polls. You want something of value right now. Look at this chart. That is not legitimate. And it certainly isn't legitimate that this is now the third cycle in a row. Because we allowed them to get away with 2018. If you would have taken the polls from 2018 and did this, you're going to see something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
It was worse this time because you just had some really crazy stuff in the presidential level. Look at Alaska. Negative. They underestimated Donald Trump's share 22.7 points. They estimated Sullivan's share 30.5 points. Guys, these are enormous misses. We are now in the territory of we can't listen to a damn thing they said. By the way, Alaska was called early this morning. All right. Early this morning. And they did this as of that writing. Right now, the margin in Alaska is 57-39. All right. There is more vote to come in, but it's 57-39. Dan Sullivan's margin. Let's see what Dan Sullivan's new margin, because there was a dump today. And if it wasn't any more better Democratic, it was getting called. That was what everything said. So Trump actually outperformed Dan Sullivan, 57-37. So again, very close, very similar vote shares. All right. But Trump actually outperformed him a little bit. And the only thing of value from this poll is that it did show Donald Trump would outperform Dan Sullivan. although they're not separated by 8 points. North Dakota. And you guys remember this talk that all these red states were going to be very close, right? They underestimated Donald Trump 14.9 points. They underestimated, there was no Senate there, but of course we have Kentucky. Mitch McConnell killed it. He killed Amy McGrath in Kentucky. They underestimated him nearly 12 points. Oklahoma underestimated Donald Trump nearly 15 points. Rhode Island, nearly 14 points. South Dakota, 13 and a half roughly. Utah, 13 and a half. By the way, Burton he took that seat. That race is called. Idaho, 13.1. New York, 12.8. Nebraska, 12.7. On and on and on and on. Let's get some of our favorites here. Which ones were going to be close? Missouri, right? Remember the Trump +4 Missouri? This is an average. Okay, remember that. 8.2. 8.2. Some of those polls were Trump +4. Donald Trump is currently ahead in Missouri by almost 16 points. And we can keep going. Where's Texas? Here's Texas. This actually is being skewed by a couple of polls that were decent. The rest of them were crap. The New York Times was garbage. Do you think Biden was ever ahead in Texas? I do not. And in fact, the independent swing away from Donald Trump didn't happen because you cannot win the state of Texas by that many points, and even as a Republican, unless you also win independents. So 7-8 points, that was not Republican turnout advantage. Partisan affiliation has tightened there. And on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it really just is out of control. Only in California, where it was a blowout margin, 5.8% where the Democrats underestimated. And in New Mexico, 2.2. That's it. New Hampshire, 0.8 of a percentage point. That's it. This is crap. This is just garbage. This is not an accident. That's not an accident. It's not fully attributable to incompetence. And they race to cover their tracks when it's done because they want to be relevant next time. You can't let them be. Because they're going to do the same thing. They're going to do the same thing. All right.
They've been doing it for years.
They've been doing it for, right. I mean, but this was so brazen. Egregious this time, Laura.
No, it's brazen.
ABC News is probably the worst example. The Washington Post. By the way, the Washington Post is an A-rated pollster on faux 38. A-rated. Biden +17. Unbelievable. All right, listen, we'll take a 30-second break and we'll be back. And we're back. I tried to swallow that too fast. All right. Yeah. I mean, send it to me. I mean, I'll read that guy. And barring any other, who was close and who was not. All right. Let's see. I mean, well, even still, even though, Susquehanna was right there with us in Pennsylvania. To my dying breath, I'm telling you, we were accurate. We tracked that race for too long. We were accurate. All right. I mean, so they were really close. They were with us. Who else? I mean, even though they're going to smash Trafalgar, they're going to smash him. He was like dead on in North Carolina. It's almost 2 points. He was dead on there. In Arizona, he and I both got that wrong. And I did see the question about Arizona. Really where we're at in Arizona right now, guys, and I can pull it up and show you too, is we're headed, if Trump can continue to perform with these Maricopa margins, he really needed better with those other dumps in order to take an outright lead. We're still hearing, though, that this thing can swing. That's why it's not called. The truth is, they don't know. Nobody knows. Okay. The margin is down, obviously, considerably. I think it's 12,000 and change right now. Biden's lead is 12,813. Okay. And if Maricopa, there's approximately, just so everybody knows, there are approximately 23,000, almost 22,500 ballots left. Okay. To count. So he would need some big margins, but he got over 56% of the last dump in Maricopa. He got over 63% of the last dump in Pinal County, but there's only a couple hundred left in Pinal County. In Pima County, he won. He took 51% almost of the vote in Pima County. So there are provisional ballots that are outstanding in Maricopa, and that really 6,000. That's what's going to slow that trickle. Trump seems to be doing a lot better with the provisionals because these are from what we heard on the ground. These are ballots that were supposed to be Trump voters that just didn't get a chance to vote that day, or they tried to bring in their ballots and were told it was too late. Interestingly, because Trump is doing this much better in Maricopa, it's going to end up, if it keeps going like this, it's going to end up pretty close to where our polling suggested it would end up. What was the difference in our polling? He got just under 40 in Pima. We had him at about 40. And then some of the margins in Apache were Apache was a little bit bigger than we suspected. There's just some areas that were a lot closer than, that were bigger as a share of the vote. He cranked out as many votes as he could in places like Yavapai. He did hit that 63. He got over it in Yavapai, almost 64%. And I know I butcher some of these names, but look at that. In Graham, 72% almost. He in Pinal, 58%. The Navajo Nation did come through for him, 53.5%. And he got as many out there as he could. Yuma, we did think was going to go a little bit bigger for Trump. That would have certainly helped him, but it didn't. Yuma appears to be getting some bleed over from Maricopa as population changes, and also Pima. So, that is what it is. Mojave did come through for him at the margins, we thought. La Paz, it did. It was lagging before, but now it's up. It was really just a matter of what the share of the vote would be. And Maricopa's not quite tied, and it needed to be basically tied. That's what our poll had it. He was surging in the end, and he tied it. But it's going to be more of the vote share than we polled it at. It will be higher. And we polled it at higher than it normally is. I think we were at 61 or 62%. And it's probably going to end up, when all those votes are counted, to be a little bit more than that. And that really is it. If he gets it down within 1/10 of a percentage point, it will be headed for a recount. They could ask if they want to pay for recounts in some of these areas. And let me just tell you what the allegations of fraud are in Arizona. All right. There were people that were apparently curbside voting. They had called the recorder, and the recorder sent folks to their homes with ballots so they could vote from home. It's just all sorts of crazy stuff. I didn't get a chance to go through it thoroughly, but I asked somebody to pretty much detail what it is they're talking about. And in the end, you're allowing Sharpies to be used, which is not mentioned anywhere in the instructions, accompanying mail-in ballots. There's just all sorts of different addresses with had handwritten postcards that were mailed and returned. Your usual run-of-the-mill electioneering, right? So we'll see. But really does depend on how heavy that Maricopa margin breaks for Donald Trump, in order to see whether he can tighten that up. What else got called yesterday? I told you to keep an eye on North Carolina. That got called. In the end, I was almost dead on with that prediction. In the end, there was just more his margin was just, almost as much as what was remaining outstanding. And the North Carolina State Board of Elections basically said that, he would have to win. Biden would have to win them by like some ridiculous margin. That was not going to happen given where they were coming from. So that's why it got called. All right. And I don't know why some networks are not calling it. They can't pick up the phone and call the North Carolina State Board of Elections and ask where these ballots are coming. I just don't understand that. All right. But of course, we have Georgia still outstanding too. That margin actually tightened a little bit, but that's going to go to a recount. So we got some days ahead of us. I did, again, disagree with calling Pennsylvania, because that's a huge lawsuit. That is a huge lawsuit. All right. So it is not uncommon for these things to happen. So I don't know what the rush was, since we have until December to certify the results and send electors. I just don't get it. I mean, I get it. I don't. That's pretty. I don't mean to. I'm not sounding naive here. I absolutely get it. I just don't. Again, this was an election for the firsts. Let me tell you, an election for the firsts. All right. So, what else? Let's see. Yeah, last dump in Philadelphia was 90% Biden, 9% Donald Trump. I mean,
you gotta laugh.
You got to. You really do have to laugh. You really do. All right, let's get to some questions, because it is Veterans Day, guys, and want to. I want to keep that promise to my daughter. So let's go. What do we got? Well, she's in charge, man. You know that.
She rules your world. That's for dang sure. If you ask Sabrina how is Daddy wrapped, she'll show you her little pinky and wiggle it. Here we go. Can you state the website or source software for the Georgia data and the source for Pennsylvania ignoring Alito's order? I'm arguing with my leftist friends and they want sources.
I mean, hold on. I'm sorry, I got to mute you. There we go. I can't wait to get this figured out. I don't know what the source software question means. I don't know what you mean by that.
Like, what are the databases you're using?
Well, first of all, we haven't put anything out on Pennsylvania yet. So again, I would wait before jumping to conclusions. In Georgia. Well, Georgia used Dominion. Mm-hmm. Like the rest. I mean, that's I don't know what source you need from that. I mean, Dominion was the software used in the state of Georgia. I mean, I could look and see if there's an article I can get you for that. But, I mean, they want a source, they can call the Secretary of State and they'll tell you they use Dominion. But on, what was the other one though?
The source for Pennsylvania, ignoring Alito's order.
Oh, yeah. Well, that happened. And the media is not going to cover. I don't know why he wants a source. The media is not going to cover that. That happened. Alito ordered them to segregate those ballots. They didn't do it. You would have to listen to the president's campaign team puts out these conference call. You jump on the conference call, you listen to the press call. All right. And they're not lying. It's just that the media is not going to cover it. I mean, if this friend of yours is waiting on the Washington Post to cover it, then you're just never going to be able to convince them, because the Washington Post is not going to cover it. Just like they put out a poll. I mean, you could tell them they'll cover it like they covered Wisconsin plus 17. I mean, really, I don't know what he's waiting on. There may be an article on Fox about it, but what's her name is always on the calls. From Fox.
Molly?
No, she's a beat reporter. What is her name? I'm sorry, I forget the names. I mean, to be honest with you, to be true and real with you guys, they all look alike. I mean, Fox reporters, they all look alike to me. I mean, there's a reason. That's wrong. It's just true. Brooke, is her name Brooke? Maybe. No. I mean, but what I'm saying is she is on those calls, so it's possible that they wrote about that in the politics section, but oh man, I think it is Brooke something. But she's just typically like a beat reporter, and you see her put out something with somebody else, maybe John Roberts or something, what is her name? I'll get, you know what? We'll try to look we'll try to look for it. I really can't remember her name right now. I'm sorry.
Lauren Blanchard?
No, that's not it. It's
Lisa Booth?
No, it's not Lisa. Lisa's a contributor. Yeah. It's a beat reporter, not a pundit. It's a beat reporter.
Whatever
all right.
Her name is.
Yeah. Let's see. Basically, just move to the next. I mean, that's all I could tell you. You're never going to be able to show your friend an article from the Washington Post or another one of his, I'm sure, or hers favorite websites, because they're not going to cover that. They are not going to cover it. All right, so let's move on here.
Vince Locker wants to know. Am I muted?
No, they can hear you anyway. You're on figure eight. I just don't want to play the dance going back and forth with the mic.
I usually hear myself before I couldn't. Rich, what's your take on Dominion software issue? There's been some glitches that seem pretty big. Is it something or fool's gold?
Yeah, I mean, it's worth investigating, guys. I mean, I don't know why everybody's like so opposed on the left to investigate it. Dominion is the reason why Antrim County, Michigan, which is what everyone keeps pointing to. If that happened, then I just don't see the problem with putting everybody's mind at ease and going back and looking at what exactly happened there. There were also problems in Georgia with it. So I don't see the reason for everyone's objection. It absolutely could be an issue with that specific software. I mean, there's just no doubt.
If you're hiding.
Yeah, I mean, this is
why?
That's really where I come at from this. That's the angle I come at. I'm with Laura on that, and Robert too, by the way. I mean, we were talking yesterday. It's like the bottom line is these are not requests or demands that are not common. So if you really had nothing to hide, there is absolutely no reason for you to have any problem with somebody going over it. There's just not. The same thing, the same applies for not allowing poll observers or poll watchers to go in. And by the way, by law, they're allowed to be there to observe the counting process. There is only one reason why you wouldn't want anyone to be in the polling station. Can we be real? No, they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Nobody deserves the benefit of the doubt. That's why we have these laws.
If you put a cookie in front of a 2-year-old,
Come
you're
on.
going to give him the benefit of the doubt he ain't going to eat it?
You got to be kidding me. No, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Number one, you all have reputations in these areas for cheating. You cheat and you know it. That is a long-standing fact. You don't get the benefit of the doubt. And the law doesn't, the bottom line here, Laura, the law doesn't give them the benefit of the doubt. Why do you think those laws are there? They broke the law by not allowing those people in there.
True story. The
Pennsylvania Attorney General helped break the law. I mean, really, you think you deserve the benefit of the doubt? That's crazy. And this is why, though, I tell it's not only, when it comes to winning elections, it's not only how you get people to vote. It's who you get to count those votes. And for way too long, one side has just had this blind trust in the process, which is very foolish. Very foolish. But again, if you had no problem, if you had nothing to hide, then you would have no problem letting people go in and do their jobs. None. And I'm telling you, people who, for the feds have done this and go in and audit counts, I mean, these people are adversarial. I mean, as one of those auditors, you're essentially there to see whether or not they did something wrong. So they are not friendly. They are not happy to see you. Why? If there's honest mistakes, there's honest, but you're not going to get in trouble for an honest mistake. It happens. Sometimes people just enter the wrong numbers. Our system is so archaic. There really is. I mean, you would be shocked by how little fail-safes there are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really could make a simple, stupid mistake as just hitting one too many zeros. It's archaic, guys. Very archaic. Which is why, like yesterday when somebody asked, I do favor a paper trail because at least, and look, Jerry Nadler used to agree with me. He used to agree with me. He favored paper too. Why? Because he said, look, I'm from New York City. Remember? I'm from New York City. Don't tell me. Don't tell me this stuff doesn't happen. Of course it does.
You notice how their narrative
always changes. The New York Times, Laura, they used to argue all the time that mail-in voting should not be widely applied because it's the most susceptible to fraud.
European countries learned this lesson a long time ago. Mail-in voting really took hold for people who were in the military. So, or overseas,
Which I get.
serving, maybe, foreign service. It was very limited in the beginning. And then it just exploded as a way to kind of ease the demand on get out the vote operations.
They saw it as their way in.
Yeah, really. But everybody knew and debated that it was not the highest integrity voting mode.
Who's having a moment
Now,
of
like you
silence?
said, it changes. Huh?
Somebody said a moment of silence at 11 a.m. for prayer. I guess for veterans.
Okay, that sounds good to me. We'll be gone by 11 a.m. anyway, remember?
Yeah.
All right. I just got to get back to work. And I got to get some people to help me on this. That's why I need that today. I need the extra time today. Now that we've developed a system, we need to execute it and teach a couple other people how to do it. And I got to run a tight ship because ultimately it's in our name. Yeah. Whatever we do find is under our banner. So I got to run a tight ship. And now that we have a system, we need to implement it. All right.
Georgia's Secretary of State ordering full hand recount.
Yeah, it looks like that. And you can listen, I'm just going to say this without saying it, but I'm going to say it. You can thank my buddy for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You can thank and that's all I'm saying. And I'm sure you guys aren't dumb, but you can thank my buddy for that. Next question, one more before we go. It's almost 11. If they are doing a moment of silence, I don't want to be blabbing.
What can Republican state legislators do to keep Trump in office, given they have political cover after retaining the majority in a max turnout election?
Listen, the truth is that if there is enough evidence of irregularities and wrongdoing, and it's just like irreparably tainted, the Republican legislatures could do whatever the hell they want. They can totally invalidate the result of the election if they want, and they could send delegates themselves. That's true. They absolutely have the power to do that. All right. But you would need to make a really heavy case. I just think without some bigger, it's going to be tough, but it can be done. It's just that Republicans are timid little weak creatures. That's the truth. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm simply saying they are. And I don't even think half of them understand what the authority they have. But that's why they have to make that case. Like, so if it is there, they need to make a strong case because it's a lot, guys. It's a heavy ask. It's a big ask.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to do it. They have to do it with a mandate. So like basically that this absolutely happened. We can't fix it. So this is what we're going to have to do. That they have to have that great mandated authority kind of thing, where it's got to be overwhelming. All right. It's 10:58. So
seems like an easy, quick question.
All right. Let's see if it is.
As a general rule, don't ignore SCOTUS. What's a likely outcome? Toss out ballots or re-election or nothing? Yeah,
we'll see. I don't know. I'm not. You never try to predict what SCOTUS is going to do. And Amy Coney Barrett already, made it much more difficult. That avenue difficult. I don't know. We will see. I really don't. All right. But in Arizona, if Maricopa keeps coming in heavy for Trump, then recount. All right. That's to answer that because I saw that in the corner of my eye. All right. Listen, don't forget in the description, the newsletter, guys. Don't forget to sign up to the newsletter, the Inside the Numbers newsletter. You can sign up to the other ones too if you want, but I put the newsletter link in there. Make sure the box for Inside the Numbers is checked because we won't bombard you with emails, but we do want to make sure that we are able to get in touch with you in case they go nuclear. Okay. And we're going to try to move this community over at least a good share of it onto People's Pundit Daily. We're going to have our own video platform built, and so you can comment in there. It will not be behind the paywall, just like because this is free here. All right. And then, of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. All right, folks, I'm going to kick rocks before this is 11 a.m. It is. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. We'll be back at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And what?
Thank you, veterans.
Thank your veterans, and thank all the veterans out there that are listening.
We will see you at 10 a.m., folks. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night. Just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away.